Scribble notes when I wrote these quotes. If I offend, pardon me, there's more of me to grow. Creative in my process, enjoy the show. The will is different when you recognize the different strokes. Different folks, same goals, we all want the most. So when we reach the top, we can enjoy the toast. The type of bread we get is fresh about the bakery. Told them don't play with me, with or without a degree. Don't question my intensity, bravery. Similar to agencies that want to see you fold. So just pray for me. Yeah, Einstein with my energy.
Welcome to the Scribble Notes podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you.
What time zone are you on? I'm in the East Coast.
I am in Bangkok, Thailand. So yeah.
Very far away.
Pretty much opposite. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like nighttime for me.
Yeah, early here.
Well, can you introduce yourself for the listeners? Talk about a little bit about what you do and just introduce yourself.
Yeah. I'm Naomi Geidel, and I am a teacher and a life purpose and transition coach, helping creatives bring their ideas to life, really honing in on their purpose to help them through that process, and also just uncovering their brilliance so that they can show up confidently, because many times we just don't see it ourselves. And so trying to get them to look at things differently, whether that be through their experiences, their interest, and all that stuff. So that's really what I help them do.
That's super cool. What led you to this path? How did you get here?
Many things, right? Like I've always been kind of a creative and kind of walked my own journey. I like going back years, I never wanted to be a teacher and ended up being a teacher and loved it because I could use my creativity to bring different ideas, different activities to the students. And I loved it for what it was and for that season. But throughout that season, I've also come up with just, man, this job, this school, whatever is not fitting. And so then I'd have to do the work like, okay, what is not fitting? Is it me? Is it leadership? Is it the environment? And so I've moved many times. I've, in my late 20s, went over and taught in Japan for the first time. And that was awesome. Just a new experience that just seeing new cultures opened my eyes a bit more. And then went back to the States, taught again. And then again, I got that inkling like, okay, this isn't fitting. And so again, I had to just kind of put it out there, and I ended up in Indonesia, teaching in Indonesia. And I think that move was more of not really sure what was next. And so in Indonesia, I really had to get clear. Okay, you can't keep running from this. You're burnt out. This isn't fitting. And so that's really when I did the soul searching work of figuring out what my purpose was, what that's going to look like in the new season. And what I really found out was it's not any different from what I've been doing. It's just going to look different in this next season. And I know purpose can be like this huge thing for some people, but for me, I just think it's what we already own and are interested in. And I put 2 words to mine. It's support and encourage. I've done that in the classroom. I do that with my coaching clients. Like that's what I do in the world. And because I got that clarity, I can always come back to that and continue the path, because the path is hard. Sometimes the road is not straight. It is full of ups and downs. And at least that's been my journey. And so, and now I'm here hanging out in Bangkok and still working through the transitions of life and trying to just enjoy it for what it is.
Yeah, you just said a lot there. It's incredible the amount of things you can go through in life and the different events and where you can find happiness. There's so many different places. Something might be your calling for now, and then fade away, and then something else might call your attention. And it's so cool that you've been able to move and travel and see other sides of yourself. I know that's probably been an incredible journey for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's one of the best things. And I actually didn't want to move overseas again after Indonesia, but here I am. And so, yeah, so I'm really like learning just to hold it with open hands, what the path may bring and what that looks like. Yeah, so that's what I want to help others on as well, because I know as creatives, we can get distracted, we can lose focus. We have a desire on our heart, but we're not always sure how to get there or what next steps to take. And so I feel like that's really where I can help people stay the course and really bring their ideas to life, of just having that outside person looking in and reminding you of who you are and what you're set out to do. Because I think the creative process, creation, can be kind of isolating and kind of defeating at times. And so if we don't have people speaking into us, it can be a lonely road, and one that we maybe give up on too soon or too easily or whatever, because the outside world is telling us, you got to do it quickly, you got to do it more, you got to do this and that. And it's like, that's not the journey. I mean, that's not how I want to live. I want to live in freedom and creativity and belonging. Like, those are some of my values. And so I align my life to that as best I can every day.
What are some of those steps how do you start that conversation with someone when you're helping out, when you're coaching them?
Yeah. Part of that process is just really getting clear on your values. Like, what are you moving towards? Because I think if we don't have those values clear, and again, those change in different seasons. So I always encourage people to touch base with them either every quarter, if you're really dedicated, to this growth journey, or, once or twice a year, but really get clear on your values. Like, what are you aligning your life with? And then from there, we start to look at, okay, what has been your work experience? What do you enjoy doing? What are your strengths and gifts? And then we try to see those common things, like, okay, let's explore. What does that look like? Could be so many different things. And I think that's the beauty of it. Like, the world has so many more jobs than it did 5 years ago, right? And so it's like, okay, let's try this out. And so then we just kind of hone it in, and we start to get more clear on what the next steps are. And sometimes when I talk about purpose or a soul-sucking job, maybe it's just a mindset that needs to be shifted, and you don't have to leave your job, right? Like, some people are like, no, how do I do that financially? How do I do that logistically? Sometimes it's not even leaving the job. Maybe it's just thinking about it differently, or a new, department or a new role that can really bring life back to the work and help you enjoy it. And some, it is leaving that and starting a whole new career path. And so that's kind of that stage, really getting clear on what it is. And then from there, we build out the plan and really kind of put into place the next steps, right? We have the big vision, but we're not completely there yet. So it's really getting clear on just the 1, 2, 3 next steps that you take to get moving, because a lot of it will be revealed as you take action. Like, some people are like, oh yeah, I thought I would like this and I don't, like a lot of people that start a business and they're like, I don't like the business side of things. I love the creation part or the coaching part or the whatever part. But they're like, oh, this business side is really hard. And so then you might have to rethink how you do it and how you move forward with that. So it's a lot of co-creation with the clients I work with as we move forward. And that changes in different seasons too. We, have to change course sometimes because we have a new idea that is bringing more energy to our lives. And sometimes it's like, oh, I really thought this was a thing, but I have to release that now. So
Mm. Yeah,
yeah.
you said a lot there, and a lot of it really resonated with me. I know mindset approach to work was something that I had really had to address. I found myself definitely not being excited and enthused about work at times, especially a few years ago. And a lot of it was because I spent so much energy and effort there that I wasn't necessarily spending the time outside of work doing other things that I enjoyed. And when I started writing and I started like publishing books, I realized that that's where I wanted to spend my energy. That's where I wanted to spend the best energy of me. I didn't want to get back from work and be tired, or in my career field, just coming back from work and bringing work home with me. So I had to really change that approach. And once I changed the mindset from like, you have to be productive at all times, you have to have X, Y, or Z output, to understanding that the next day the work will still be there. You'll have new tasks. Like there will always be more work. That's when I really freed myself from this mentality of like catching up. I was always trying to catch up on all the things. And I know that kind of changed just the way I approached work. I would leave work, I would clock out, and then I'd make time to do all the things I wanted to do from there. And it made a huge difference. And I think like that being a starting point, and then going into what are your values and making an actionable plan, that goes such a long way, because it's one thing to say you want to do something, and it's another thing to really see it and say like, this is how it happens, this is how I fit it in my day with my situation. And having someone to work through it with you is super important.
Yeah, I'm glad that you took the time to do that work and really realize, yep, I just need more dedicated time to creation. And because I feel like that's a lot of what's lacking in the world today, not as much fun, like going to the work, sometimes working late, and then, having family responsibilities. I don't have that. And yet I still have to take care of myself. So, we always have things that we have to take care of. But I've noticed for me, really carving out that time for the creation process, even if it's just getting messy with a new medium that I've never tried before, really sparks a new kind of energy to other areas of my life. And that's what makes it exciting. So good job.
Thank you. Yeah, it's so cool because there are so many different areas. I know one of the things, I didn't have social media for a long time, and obviously starting a business and doing all the things associated with it, it's like, okay, I have to get social media. I have to start building out some sort of space so people can find me. And this time around, because when I used to have it, it was personal use, it was all fun and games. Now it's like strategic, it's everything's thought out, but it's really challenged a different side of my creativity to really figure out like, what is the best way to get these messages out? What is the best way to kind of promote? I spent some time the other day designing a new podcast. So I have a new podcast coming up in a couple months that I want to release and launch. But like designing the cover art and really spending some time going in and learning more about design and graphics, because it's always been something I'm interested in. And with my job, it's a part of what I can be doing. So I was like, let's actually get some more education on it. Let's actually build some of those skills, because it's a part of the process that I've always enjoyed. It's always been something that I get to dabble in anyway. And being able to do it, it's just been fun. I think finding more opportunities. I've been a big advocate for being creative and just allowing yourself that space to do it, and accepting that it might not be perfect in the beginning as part of the process. It's been something that has been important to me, and I've been preaching it for the last couple of years, just to put yourself out there and try.
Yeah, that's such a good thing to like remember, is that it's not going to be perfect. Like, when has it ever been perfect from the get-go? And when is it ever perfect? Like good enough and great is, I think, what we need to strive to. And like you said, just enjoying the process of creation, because there's no end to it. there's, especially if you're trying to start a creative business, right? You're going to be learning these new skills, and some of it might fit really well and some of it might not, but that's part of the exploration and the experimentation of life. And I know for me, like coming out of a burnt out situation, I just wanted that one and done thing that could just ride me out, right? And that's what was sold at the time. Well, that's not the case. And so I've had to like rework some of that thinking of, no, that we're always creating and we're always evolving and we're always learning. And so enjoy that process for what it is and not just the end goal of whatever that might be. Like you'll get there, but the journey is the process.
Yeah, and that's what makes it worth it at the end of the day. If
Mhm.
you really think about it, the moments of accomplishment, like because I'm an author, writing books, it's a daunting process. It takes forever, and then you get the published copy in your hand, and it's like, wow, I did this. This was completed. And then you think about the next story. You're like, all right, well, that was fun. That story's written. I did this. I'm enjoying this. But there's always another story in your head that you want to write. There's always another process that you want to go through. And it's always the outline. It's always the building of the story, the crafting of the characters, the conflict, the plot twist. Those are the things that make writing fun. Those are the things that make the craft interesting. It's not even having it completed. It's all of the chapters that it takes to get to that final moment where you get to have that catharsis at the end. That makes it really, really be the most enjoyable thing, at least for me, that I do at my time. And I think that's always been that, just what you said. It's like, that is the process. That is what it's all about. The end result is great and it's amazing because you have something, but it really is that process of going through it that really makes it enjoyable and sustainable for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hear on that sustainability, right? Like so many times we're hearing about new people that are starting something and they work themselves to death and then they're not enjoying it anymore. And then they're back at square one of figuring out what's next. And so I think that pacing of how we're moving into our creative journey is important, so that we are in it for the long haul, if it's really what's on your heart to do.
So I had another question about handling the downs, because I know it's always great to get started. It's always great to see success. How do you help people as far as like dealing with the difficult times when you're posting things and there's no engagement, or you spent hours editing and no one sees what you did? How do you handle the downs, and how do you help people handle downs?
Yeah. Oh, those are so hard. And there's probably more of them than we'd like to admit. Especially when you're starting out, you're like, I have this message and I want to get it out with the world, and crickets. So how we deal with those, I think it's like, for me, I keep going back to my purpose. If I know my purpose is to support and encourage just one person, then I show up for that one person. And sometimes that one person is me. I tell myself the message that I need to hear, because I know it will resonate with other people. I know I'm not the only one out there walking this road. And so, yeah, so some days I have to pull that one out. Other days, I have people I found that I can go to and share the struggle, and they will just listen and be there, not try to fix it, not try to, put some positivity on it that just doesn't feel good at the time, but just let me sit with it. Because sometimes we do need a pity party just to release that, and then we can move on. I don't think there's anything bad with, just having those feelings. They're valid just like any other. And I also have people that I can go to that are my cheerleaders, and they continue to encourage me to keep moving forward, that what I do is of value. And that's what I do with my clients as well, because like this past week, I had a client starting a new camp for adults, right? That's a lot of work to do. And sometimes you're just like, I just don't want to do it. I'm just going to wait till next year. And so we had to just get clear, what do we have control of today and this week? And how are you going to feel at the end of the week once you take these actions? And so we're
Mm.
going to take those actions to get closer to the goal. And so I think that's how I work with, the creatives I work with, is just really getting back to your why, back to your
Mm.
values, and then we start from there.
That is so important. Like that is like so crucial. Even as you said that, it made me just think, like, you always have to remember why you're doing it. Even regardless of the results and regardless of the engagement or how it might feel in the moment, it's like always get back to that, because that's the one thing that's constant, I guess, is that you have your values, is that it matters to you. And even you just saying, like, sometimes you are the person that you did it for, and that is so powerful, because that is so true for so many people. It might not be the biggest or best selling thing ever. The thing might not work out, but you did it, and you get to remember that, you get to know that, you get to enjoy that memory, you get to have that be a part of yourself and your experience. And I think that's just as important as any level of recognition as you could get.
Yeah, we need to be in the trenches, right? Like, that's where the work is done. We need the rough draft to be seen. We need the whatever you're creating to be seen. So it does come with the action. And so sometimes when we're feeling down, we just want to sit and not do anything. And so that's part of my work too, is supporting people, is how do we get back to action as quick as possible, so that we do have something to edit. So we do have something to be seen. So we do have something that we can tweak and, make better. So
What have you noticed is something that has made people more successful with people that you coach? What do you notice the difference between someone that's good and great and excellent?
yeah. Well, I think it always starts from a heart of service, right? Like, they're not just doing it for the dollar. They're doing it to be of service to others. And I think that makes them excellent to begin with. And then from that, we build out, those strategies and the kind of action plan that will get them there. I know that the people I work with are ready to do the work, right? They may be unclear of what the next step is, and that's what we do together. We get clear on that, but they are willing to put in the effort and the time and the energy it takes to get something out in the world. And so I think that's kind of those foundational pieces that will continue to get them to the next level. And then the level after that, like, some of the mindsets might change around money, or, like, oh, really? Do I deserve this kind of stuff? But I think the foundations are there. Like, you're going to be changing as you grow, but you still want to, like, be authentic to yourself. And we've probably all seen people that were like, oh, they've really changed and not for the better, right? Maybe a sense of arrogance creeps in, and I'm all that. Like, that only is going to last so long. But you see the people that have been in business for a long time, and they have that servant heart, they have that work ethic that is going to go the long haul. And so that's what I see in my clients. Yeah.
And how does someone kind of build that if they're hearing this and they're like, oh no, that's not me?
Yeah, I think, good question. How do you build that? I think it's just a lot of self-reflection. It's a lot of just digging, and again, going back to your values. Maybe service isn't a value, but maybe there's another word that, maybe it's belonging. Maybe you want to build community around something. Maybe you want to, I don't know, just make the world more beautiful, right? And that's serving people. It could look so many different ways. And so if you don't have that right now, I think it can be explored and uncovered in a way that fits for you. And so, yeah, words matter. And I think it looks different for everybody. We know that as creatives, and so then that's part of the work, like what fits for you.
Yeah, just reflecting and thinking about how that can fit inside what you do, and realizing that I guess realizing that everything you do as someone that's creative is to impact someone, or others in some sort of way. Whether you're a fashion designer, you're building a brand of clothing, or you're an artist and you're painting, all of those things still impact somebody. And I guess putting the person first is kind of what I heard. It's like, how do you put the person first? How do you put your customer first? How do you put whoever you're interacting with first above, I guess, money? Because the thought is, if I get money, then I'm successful. And in reality, it's like, if you're building connection, whether it's that person knows you or not, that's where the real benefit comes in, because that becomes a loyal customer. That also becomes a supporter. That's becomes someone that likes your post. That's someone that watches your videos. If you're a YouTuber, that's the person that continues to keep up with you and goes to your live streams when no one else shows up. Those are the people that you really want. And I think that's kind of what I took away from that. However it looks for you, it's going to look different, but it's really that connection that you have with people.
Yeah. And that can be tricky sometimes, because a lot of, I think, artists are more introverted. We don't like to be in front of the camera, some people, or we don't like to use like our voice. We just rather use our paint or whatever that looks like. And so it can be, and we maybe want a smaller group. And so I think in today's world where you're having to build these relationships with a lot of other people, I think that's part of the work too, is figuring out how I can do that feels comfortable for me, and yet I'm making those connections with other people, to have those like great supporters that can be your referrals and stuff like that. So it may not be you having relationship with millions. It might be just a handful of people that can then spread the word for you.
Yeah, that vocal team of people who really love you and support you, because they'll do all the heavy lifting.
Yeah, for sure. We need to figure it out how to make it work.
So where can people find you online? Where can they connect with you? How can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, I like to hang out on Instagram, and that's at A Creative Purpose. I also have a podcast, A Creative Purpose with Naomi, and that's just sharing stories of people in their journey and what they've learned along the way. And yeah, that's where you can find me.
Awesome. Any last tips as we're coming up on the end of our time?
Yeah, I just want to encourage people. Like, most people have an idea on their heart and it's been with them a while. And so I just want to encourage people just to see what that looks like, just to take some steps, to play it out and have fun with it and explore it, and just to see what could come of it, having no expectation with it, but to listen to your soul's desire, because that's on your heart for a reason. And usually it's not just for you, it's for somebody else. And so I just want to encourage people to just play with it and bring it to life.
I love that. Thank you so much for making time and coming on the podcast. I have enjoyed this conversation a lot, and I think the listeners are taking away a lot from this.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a good time.
So if you're listening, make sure you leave a review on the podcast. If you're listening on Spotify, y'all have been doing a great job. So please make sure you leave a review. Share it with somebody if you think they'll take something away from this. Also, Apple Podcasts, we need more reviews on there. So make sure you leave a review there too. You can listen on Spotify and then also leave a review on Apple Podcasts, by the way. That's the thing. So feel free to do that. I definitely appreciate all of you listening. This has been a great episode, and I'll catch y'all next week. Peace out.
Scribble notes, Scribble notes when I wrote these quotes. If I offend, pardon me, there's more of me to grow. Creative in my process, enjoy the show. The will is different when you recognize the different strokes. Different folks, same goals, we all want the most. So when we reach the top, we can enjoy the toast. The type of bread we get is fresh about the bakery. Told them don't play with me, with or without a degree, don't question my intensity. Bravery, similar to agencies that want to see you fold. So just pray for me. Yeah, Einstein with my